They asked for our help and we answered. For centuries, humanity carried the weight of a fractured galaxy, fixing their systems, defending their borders, feeding their people. But when the truth emerged, that we were never meant to serve, only to protect, we vanished. One signal, one final message, then silence. And without us, their stars began to fall. This is the story of what happens when humanity walks away, and the galaxy remembers who really held it together. The Broken Promise. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood before the massive viewing window of Station Unity, watching the stars shimmer in the endless void of space. The station hung in the neutral zone between human and alien territories, a symbol of cooperation that had taken decades to build. But tonight, Elena felt that everything she had worked for was about to crumble. The emergency council meeting had ended just an hour ago, and the words still echoed in her mind like a death sentence. The galaxy was dying, and the aliens had been lying about it for years. Elena pressed her palm against the cool metal wall and closed her eyes. She had spent 15 years as humanity's chief ambassador to the Stellar Alliance, believing that she was helping to build a better future for all species. She had negotiated trade agreements, resolved conflicts between alien worlds, and worked tirelessly to prove that humans deserved their place among the stars. But it had all been built on lies. The door behind her hissed open, and Dr. James Morrison walked into the observation deck. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes who served as humanity's chief scientist on the station. James had been Elena's closest friend and advisor for over a decade, and she could tell from his expression that he had discovered something terrible. "Elena, we need to talk," James said quietly. "I've been analyzing the data from the emergency session, and what I found changes everything." Elena turned away from the window and faced her old friend. She had known James long enough to recognize the look on his face. It was the same expression he had worn when they first discovered that the alien species had been secretly studying human psychology for decades, looking for ways to control and manipulate their behavior. "Tell me what you found," Elena said, though part of her already knew that she did not want to hear the answer. James activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Hundreds of star systems appeared as points of light, connected by the trading routes and communication networks that held galactic civilization together. But many of the lights were flickering or going dark completely. "The cosmic phenomenon they told us about is real," James began. "Something is indeed moving through our galaxy, destroying everything in its path. But they've known about it for over 50 years, not the 5 years they claimed in the meeting." Elena felt her heart sink. The alien council members had stood before the assembly just hours ago, explaining that a mysterious force was consuming entire star systems at the edge of the galaxy. They had said it was a recent discovery and that all species needed to work together to find a solution. But if James was right, then the aliens had been planning for this disaster for half a century. "There's more," James continued, his voice growing darker. "I managed to access the restricted files in the Great Archive. Elena, the things I found there will make you sick." The Great Archive was the central repository of all galactic knowledge, maintained jointly by the major alien species. Humans had been given limited access to certain sections as part of their membership in the Stellar Alliance, but the most sensitive information had always been kept from them. James manipulated the holographic display, and new information began to appear alongside the star map. Elena saw documents written in dozens of alien languages, scientific reports spanning centuries, and what appeared to be detailed psychological profiles of human behavior patterns. "According to these files, every major alien species has been studying us since we first developed faster-than-light travel," James explained. "They've been monitoring our communications, analyzing our decision-making processes, and documenting our strengths and weaknesses. But that's not the worst part." Elena steeled herself for whatever revelation was coming next. She had learned over the years that in galactic politics there was always something worse lurking beneath the surface. "The aliens have always known that humans possess certain qualities that other species lack," James continued. "We're better at adapting to new situations. We're more creative in solving problems. We form stronger emotional bonds that allow us to work together under extreme stress. And most importantly, we have something they call the guardian instinct. An innate drive to protect and preserve life, even when it means sacrificing ourselves." Elena stared at the alien documents floating in the holographic display. She could see charts and graphs that analyzed human behavior during various crises, noting how humans consistently chose to help others even when it put them at risk. There were studies of human colonies that had shared resources with struggling alien settlements and reports of human rescue missions that had saved thousands of alien lives over the decades. "They've been using us," Elena said, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. All this time we thought we were junior partners in the Alliance, but they've been manipulating us into becoming the galaxy's caretakers. James nodded grimly. Every time there was a crisis, they made sure humans were the ones who stepped up to fix it. Every time there was a conflict between alien species, they relied on human mediators to find a peaceful solution. Every time there was a natural disaster or resource shortage, they expected human aid workers and engineers to solve the problem. Elena thought back over her years as an ambassador and began to see the pattern that had been hidden from her. Whenever the Alien Council faced a difficult decision, they would always find ways to make the humans volunteer to handle the most dangerous or thankless tasks. They had praised human courage and ingenuity, making it seem like an honor to be chosen for the most perilous missions. And now that the galaxy is facing its greatest threat ever, they expect us to save everyone again, Elena said bitterly. Exactly, James replied. Look at this. The holographic display changed to show a detailed plan written in the flowing script of the Zephonian High Council. Elena's translation implant allowed her to read the alien text, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The document was titled Final Solution Protocol, and it outlined a plan to relocate the entire human population to the path of the approaching cosmic phenomenon. The aliens intended to use humanity as a shield, hoping that human ingenuity and sacrifice would find a way to stop or slow down the destructive force long enough for the alien species to escape to safety. They're planning to sacrifice us, Elena whispered. They want to send every human colony, every human ship, every human settlement directly into the path of destruction. They think we'll find a way to stop it, or at least buy them time to run away. James pointed to another section of the document. And if we refuse, they've prepared contingency plans. They'll cut off all trade with human worlds, block access to critical resources, and isolate us completely until we have no choice but to comply. Elena felt a cold rage building in her chest. For 15 years, she had believed that humans were earning their place in the galactic community through hard work and dedication. She had been proud of humanity's contributions to interstellar civilization, thinking that they were building something beautiful and lasting with their alien partners. But it had all been a lie. The aliens had never seen humans as partners or equals. They had seen them as useful tools to be manipulated and ultimately discarded when they were no longer needed. Every act of human heroism had been orchestrated. Every human sacrifice had been planned. Every moment of trust and cooperation had been based on deception. Elena, there's one more thing, James said quietly. I found communications between the Alien Council members discussing what they call the human problem. They're afraid that if we discover the truth, we might refuse to cooperate with their plans, so they've been developing ways to force our compliance. The holographic display showed technical specifications for devices that Elena did not recognize, but as she read the descriptions, she realized that the aliens had been preparing to take control of human settlements and spacecraft by force if necessary. They've installed hidden control systems in every piece of technology they've given us over the years, James explained. If we don't agree to their final solution, they can shut down our power grids, disable our ships, and cut off our life support systems. They've been preparing to hold the entire human race hostage. Elena closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The weight of the revelation was almost too much to bear. Humanity had spent decades building relationships with alien species, believing that they were creating a better future for all sentient life in the galaxy. But they had been nothing more than pawns in a game they did not even know they were playing. When Elena opened her eyes again, her expression had changed. The sadness and disappointment were still there, but they had been joined by something harder and more determined. She had been betrayed, but she was not defeated. James, how long do we have before they expect an answer to their proposal? Elena asked. The Council gave us 72 hours to consider their final solution protocol, James replied. They expect us to agree to relocate all human assets to the danger zone within the week. Elena walked back to the viewing window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the cosmic phenomenon was destroying entire worlds, consuming everything in its path. The alien species were preparing to run away and leave humanity to face the threat alone. But Elena had a different idea. Send an encrypted message to every human colony, every human ship, and every human settlement in the galaxy, Elena said firmly. Use the emergency protocols and make sure the message reaches everyone within 24 hours. James looked confused. What message do you want me to send? Elena turned away from the window and faced her friend with a look of grim determination. Tell them that humanity is done playing by alien rules. Tell them that we're cutting off all communication with every alien species, effective immediately. And tell them that from now on, we're going to solve this galaxy's problems our own way." James stared at her in shock. "Elena, if we cut off communication with the Stellar Alliance, we'll be completely isolated. We'll lose access to their technology, their resources, their protection. The aliens could destroy us." Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Let them try, James. We've been solving their problems for decades while they took all the credit. We've been saving their lives while they planned our destruction. Maybe it's time they learned what the galaxy looks like without human help." The decision was made. Humanity would no longer serve as the galaxy's willing servants. The age of cooperation was over, and the age of independence was about to begin. Elena had no idea what would happen next, but she knew that whatever came, humanity would face it on their own terms. The last signal was about to be sent, and after that, the galaxy would never be the same again. The silent treatment begins. Captain Marcus Chen received Elena's encrypted message while his ship was docked at the Kepler mining station, 3 days' journey from the nearest alien outpost. Marcus had been transporting rare minerals from human mining operations to alien manufacturing worlds for the past 5 years, believing he was helping to strengthen the bonds between species. Now, as he read Elena's words on his private communication terminal, everything he thought he knew about the galaxy was crumbling. Marcus was a veteran of the border wars, conflicts that had erupted between various alien species over territorial disputes. He had served as a human peacekeeper, helping to negotiate ceasefires and protect civilian populations. The aliens had always praised human peacekeepers for their fairness and dedication, but now Marcus understood that they had been used as convenient tools to clean up messes that the aliens had created for themselves. "All hands, this is the captain speaking," Marcus announced over the ship's communication system. "Report to the main cargo bay immediately for an emergency briefing. This concerns the future of every human in the galaxy." Marcus made his way through the corridors of his transport vessel, the UES Defiance, thinking about the crew members who had served under him for years. There was Chief Engineer Rosa Martinez, who could fix any piece of alien technology faster than the species who had designed it. There was Navigation Officer Kevin Park, who had mapped more star systems than any alien explorer in the past century. There was Medical Officer Dr. Amanda Foster, who had developed treatments for diseases that affected multiple alien species. They were good people who had dedicated their lives to serving the greater galactic community. They deserved to know the truth about what that service had really meant. The cargo bay was filled with containers of processed uranium and rare earth elements that were destined for the Zephonian manufacturing worlds. These materials would be used to build advanced technologies that the aliens would never share with humanity, despite the fact that human miners had risked their lives to extract them from dangerous asteroid fields. Marcus waited until his entire crew of 47 people had gathered in the cargo bay. He looked at their faces and saw confusion, concern, and trust. They believed in him, and they believed in the mission they had been carrying out. It was going to break his heart to tell them how that trust had been betrayed. "I've just received a priority message from Ambassador Vasquez," Marcus began. "What I'm about to tell you will change everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the galaxy." Marcus spent the next hour explaining everything that Elena had discovered. He told them about the hidden files in the Great Archive, the decades of psychological manipulation, and the aliens' plan to sacrifice humanity to save themselves from the cosmic phenomenon. He watched as shock, anger, and disappointment played across the faces of his crew members. Chief Engineer Martinez was the first to speak when Marcus finished his explanation. "Captain, if what you're saying is true, then we've been working for people who see us as expendable. Every repair I've made to alien equipment, every improvement I've suggested to their designs, it was all just making them stronger while they planned to throw us away." Navigation Officer Park stepped forward with clenched fists. "Sir, I've spent years mapping safe passage routes through dangerous sectors of space. I've helped alien merchant fleets avoid pirates and navigate around cosmic storms. I've saved thousands of alien lives, and they repay us by planning our extermination?" Dr. Foster's voice was quiet but filled with controlled rage. "I've treated alien patients who were dying from diseases that their own doctors couldn't cure. I've shared human medical knowledge freely, helping to save entire alien populations from plagues and genetic disorders. And this is how they show their gratitude?" Marcus nodded grimly. "Ambassador Vasquez has made a decision, and I agree with her completely. Humanity is cutting off all communication and cooperation with alien species, effective immediately. We're going dark, and we're going to let them solve their own problems for once." The crew members began talking among themselves, their voices rising as the implications of the decision became clear. Some were angry, some were scared, and some seemed relieved that they would no longer have to pretend that the aliens were their friends. "Captain, what about our current cargo?" asked Supply Officer Jennifer Liu. "We're carrying materials that the Zephonians are expecting to receive within the week. If we don't deliver them, it could affect their entire production schedule." Marcus walked over to the nearest cargo container and placed his hand on its metal surface. These materials were mined by human workers in conditions that would kill most alien species. Our people risked their lives to extract these resources from the cores of dead planets and the hearts of dangerous asteroids. The aliens never thanked us for that sacrifice, they just demanded more. Marcus turned back to face his crew. "We're not delivering this cargo to the Zephonians. In fact, we're not delivering any more materials to any alien species. From now on, everything that human workers produce stays in human hands." Chief Martinez smiled for the first time since the briefing had begun. "Captain, I've been keeping detailed records of every alien technology system I've worked on over the years. I know how their ships work, how their stations are powered, and how their defense systems operate. If we're cutting ties with them, maybe it's time they learned what it's like when human technical support disappears." Marcus felt a cold satisfaction growing in his chest. "Rosa, I want you to contact every human engineer and technician in the galaxy. Tell them to stop all maintenance work on alien systems immediately. If the aliens want their technology to keep working, they can figure out how to fix it themselves." Navigation Officer Park was already pulling up star charts on his portable display. "Captain, I've been thinking about something. The aliens have always relied on human map navigation routes to travel safely through dangerous regions of space. Without access to our stellar cartography data, they're going to have a hard time moving their fleets and merchant vessels." "Excellent point, Kevin," Marcus replied. "Send word to every human navigation specialist in the galaxy. Tell them to restrict access to all human-discovered star charts and navigation data. Let the aliens find their own way through space." Dr. Foster was reviewing medical files on her tablet. "Captain, I've been developing treatments for 17 different alien diseases over the past 3 years. Several alien species depend on human-produced medicines to keep their populations healthy. If we stop providing those treatments, millions of aliens could die from preventable illnesses." Marcus felt a moment of hesitation. Despite his anger at the aliens' betrayal, the thought of causing mass deaths made him uncomfortable. But then he remembered the Final Solution Protocol and the aliens' plan to send every human settlement into the path of the cosmic phenomenon. "Amanda, prepare a final medical data package containing all the treatments you've developed," Marcus decided. "We'll transmit it to alien medical facilities along with our last communication. After that, they're on their own. We won't be responsible for maintaining their health systems anymore." Marcus activated the ship's main communication array and began composing a message that would be sent to every alien species in the galaxy. It would be the last official communication between humanity and the rest of galactic civilization. "To all alien species and governments," Marcus began dictating. "The human race hereby announces the immediate termination of all cooperative agreements, trade partnerships, and mutual aid treaties with non-human entities. Effective immediately, all human personnel are withdrawing from alien territories and installations. All human-provided services, including technical support, medical assistance, and navigational aid, are permanently discontinued." Marcus paused and looked at his crew. Every face showed determination and resolve. They had made their choice, and they were ready to face whatever consequences came from it. "Furthermore," Marcus continued, "all human-controlled resources, including mined materials, manufactured goods, and technological innovations, will no longer be available to alien species. Any alien vessels attempting to enter human-controlled space will be turned away without exception. This decision is final and non-negotiable." Marcus ended the message and looked at his communications officer. "Send that to every alien government, every alien military installation, and every alien civilian authority in the galaxy. Make sure everyone receives it." As the message was transmitted across the galaxy, Marcus felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. For years, he had carried the burden of trying to maintain peaceful relationships with species that had never respected humanity. He had smiled and nodded while alien officials treated him like a servant. He had accepted unfair contracts and dangerous missions because he believed it was for the greater good. But the greater good had been a lie. The aliens had never intended to treat humans as equals. They had seen humanity as a useful resource to be exploited and ultimately discarded. Now they would learn what the galaxy looked like without human cooperation. Chief Engineer Martinez was already pulling up technical specifications on her computer terminal. Captain, I'm going to begin implementing what I call the Dark Protocol. It's a systematic shutdown of all human-maintained systems on alien installations throughout the galaxy. What does that involve? Marcus asked. Every major alien space station, shipyard, and manufacturing facility relies on human-designed systems for critical operations, Martinez explained. We've been maintaining their power grids, their life support systems, their communication networks, and their defense platforms. If we withdraw all technical support and implement security lockouts, their entire infrastructure will begin failing within days. Marcus nodded approvingly. Do it, but make sure to give them 48 hours notice so they can evacuate civilian areas. We're not trying to commit genocide. We just want them to understand how much they've been depending on us. Navigation Officer Park was studying long-range sensor readings. Captain, I'm detecting increased alien fleet movements near the boundaries of human space. It looks like several species are trying to position their ships to intercept human vessels before we can complete our withdrawal. Marcus walked to the viewing window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien commanders were probably in a state of panic as they realized that humanity was serious about cutting all ties. They had never expected their useful servants to rebel. Kevin, send word to all human ships and stations, Marcus ordered. Tell them to accelerate their withdrawal from alien space. If any alien vessels attempt to interfere with our evacuation, they are authorized to defend themselves by any means necessary. Dr. Foster finished preparing her final medical data transmission and looked up from her work. Captain, I've included treatments for every major alien disease we've encountered, along with detailed instructions for synthesizing the necessary medicines. I've also included warnings about several potential epidemic diseases that could spread among alien populations without proper human-developed vaccines. That's generous of you, Amanda, Marcus said. But after this transmission, we won't be providing any more medical assistance to alien species. They'll have to develop their own solutions to their health problems. Marcus activated the ship's intercom again. All hands, prepare for immediate departure from Kepler Station. We're returning to human space and we're not coming back. From now on, humanity stands alone among the stars. As the UES Defiance undocked from the mining station and began its journey back to human territory, Marcus felt a mixture of sadness and anticipation. The galaxy was about to change in ways that no one could predict. The age of human servitude was ending, and the age of human independence was beginning. Behind them, alien civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were about to discover what it felt like to face their problems without human help. The cosmic phenomenon was still approaching, consuming everything in its path, but now the aliens would have to find their own solutions. Humanity was done being the galaxy's caretakers. It was time for the galaxy to learn how to take care of itself. The galaxy starts falling apart. Admiral David Park stood in the command center of the human deep space monitoring station Sentinel, watching as the galaxy began to tear itself apart. The massive holographic display showed real-time intelligence gathered from across known space, and every update brought news of fresh disasters among the alien civilizations. David had been born on Earth but had spent most of his adult life in space, serving as humanity's chief military observer for galactic affairs. His job had been to monitor potential threats to human settlements and coordinate with alien security forces when necessary. But for the past month, since humanity had implemented its complete communication blackout with alien species, David had been watching the systematic collapse of interstellar civilization. The first signs of trouble had appeared within days of Marcus Chen's final transmission to the alien governments. Human engineers and technicians had begun abandoning their posts on alien installations throughout the galaxy, leaving behind critical systems that the aliens had never learned to maintain themselves. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim approached David's station with the latest intelligence reports. Sarah was a brilliant analyst who had been tracking alien political and economic developments for over a decade. Her expression was grim as she handed him the data tablet containing the morning's updates. Admiral, the situation continues to deteriorate across all monitored sectors, Sarah reported. The Zephonian Manufacturing Consortium has lost power to 60% of their industrial facilities. Their technicians can't figure out how to restart the human-designed fusion reactors that provide energy to their major production centers. David scrolled through the report and shook his head in amazement. The Zephonians were one of the most technologically advanced species in the galaxy, yet they had become so dependent on human engineering expertise that they couldn't maintain their own infrastructure without assistance. What about their shipyards? David asked. Are they still able to construct new vessels? Negative, sir, Sarah replied. The shipyards at Zephon Prime have been completely shut down for 2 weeks. The automated construction systems were designed and programmed by human engineers, and when our people left, they implemented security lockouts that the Zephonians can't bypass. David felt a cold satisfaction at this news. The Zephonians had always treated human engineers like skilled laborers rather than the technological innovators they actually were. They had accepted human improvements to their systems while claiming all the credit for the resulting advances. Now they were learning the true value of human expertise. Commander Lisa Torres entered the command center from the communications section, carrying an armload of intercepted alien transmissions. Lisa was a communications specialist who had been monitoring alien emergency frequencies since the blackout began. Her job was to track the aliens' response to humanity's withdrawal without directly communicating with them. Admiral, you need to hear this, Lisa said as she activated an audio playback device. We intercepted a priority transmission between the Vorthak collective leadership and their military commanders. The speakers filled with the clicking, chittering sounds of Vorthak's speech, followed by the synthetic voice of the translation system. David had heard many alien languages over the years, but the Vorthak always sounded particularly agitated when they were under stress. High Command, this is Fleet Admiral Kethak reporting from the Outer Rim sector, the translated voice began. The situation here is becoming critical. Without human peacekeepers to maintain the ceasefire agreements, the Kylix hegemony has resumed attacks on our mining colonies. They claim we violated territorial boundaries, but our navigation systems are malfunctioning without human technical support. David raised an eyebrow. The Kylix and Vorthak had been at war for centuries before human diplomats had helped negotiate a complex peace agreement 5 years ago. Human peacekeepers had been stationed in the disputed territory to monitor compliance and prevent violations, but those peacekeepers had been withdrawn as part of humanity's complete disengagement from alien affairs. The Vorthak transmission continued. We request immediate deployment of replacement navigation specialists and military advisors. Our fleet commanders report that they are unable to coordinate large-scale operations without access to human-provided stellar cartography data. Several of our ships have been lost in hyperspace due to navigation errors. Lisa paused the playback and looked at David. Sir, we've been intercepting similar distress calls from dozens of alien species. They're all reporting the same types of problems. Communication breakdowns, system failures, territorial conflicts resuming, and navigation difficulties. David walked to the central holographic display and examined the latest intelligence data. The display showed the locations of active conflicts throughout the galaxy, and the number of red warning indicators had tripled since humanity's withdrawal began. Show me the sector-by-sector breakdown, David ordered. The display zoomed in to show different regions of galactic space in detail. David could see that the most severe problems were occurring in areas where human presence had been strongest. Former human colonies and outposts were marked in blue, while areas of active conflict or system failures were marked in red. The pattern is clear, Sarah observed. Every region where humans provided significant infrastructure support or peacekeeping services is now experiencing major problems. The aliens never developed redundant systems or learned to handle these responsibilities themselves. David nodded grimly. They got comfortable depending on us for everything. When we were there, they could focus on politics and expansion while humans handled all the difficult technical and diplomatic work. Now they're learning what happens when their support system disappears. Commander Torres activated another intercepted transmission, this one from the Aquatic Federation, a coalition of water-based species that controlled several important star systems near the galactic core. Emergency Council, this is Deep Commander Mural speaking from the tidal station, the translated voice gurgled. Our life support systems are failing across multiple habitats. The human technicians who maintained our environmental controls have departed, and our own engineers cannot understand the modifications they made to our systems. David frowned. The Aquatic Federation habitats required incredibly precise environmental controls to maintain the specific atmospheric and pressure conditions that water-based species needed to survive. Human engineers had spent years upgrading those systems to be more efficient and reliable, but apparently, the aliens had never bothered to learn how their own life support systems worked. Deep Commander, what is the current status of your population centers? Another alien voice asked through the transmission. We have already evacuated 3 major habitats due to complete environmental failure, Mural replied. Atmospheric processing has stopped functioning, water recycling systems are shutting down, and temperature regulation is becoming unstable. If we cannot restore these systems within the next few days, we may lose our entire industrial infrastructure. Lisa stopped the playback and pulled up a tactical display showing the Aquatic Federation's territory. Admiral, our intelligence suggests that the Aquatic Federation provides critical resources to at least a dozen other alien species. If their habitats continue to fail, it could create a cascade effect throughout that entire region of the galaxy. David studied the display and began to understand the scope of what was happening. Humanity hadn't just been providing individual services to alien species, they had been serving as the connective tissue that held galactic civilization together. Human engineers maintained the infrastructure. Human diplomats resolved conflicts. Human merchants facilitated trade between species that didn't trust each other. Human scientists shared knowledge that advanced everyone's capabilities. Now that humans had withdrawn from all those roles simultaneously, the entire galactic system was collapsing like a house of cards. Admiral, incoming priority transmission from Admiral Chen aboard the Defiance, announced Communications Officer Johnson from his station. David activated the secure communication channel, and Marcus Chen's face appeared on the main screen. Marcus looked tired but determined, and David could see the bridge of his ship behind him as his crew worked to coordinate the ongoing evacuation of human personnel from alien space. David, I wanted to update you on the withdrawal operation, Marcus began. We've successfully evacuated 87% of all human civilian personnel from alien territories. However, we're encountering increasing resistance from alien military forces who are trying to prevent our people from leaving. David leaned forward with concern. What kind of resistance? Are they threatening violence? Not yet, but they're getting desperate, Marcus replied. 3 different alien governments have offered us incredibly generous terms if we'll agree to return. The Zephonians offered to make humans equal partners in their government. The Kylix promised to share their most advanced military technologies. The Vorthak even offered to give us entire star systems as sovereign human territory. David almost laughed at the irony. These were the same species that had spent decades treating humans like junior partners at best and servants at worst. Now that they were facing the consequences of losing human support, they were suddenly willing to offer everything they had previously denied. I assume you declined their offers, David asked. Of course, Marcus confirmed. We're not interested in their gifts or promises. They had decades to treat us fairly, and they chose to manipulate and exploit us instead. Now they can learn to survive without us. David looked at the tactical display showing the continuing collapse of alien civilization. Marcus, how long do you estimate before the major alien governments completely lose control? Marcus consulted something off-screen before answering. Based on current trends, I'd say most alien civilizations will experience total infrastructure failure within 6 months. Some of the more dependent species might collapse within weeks. The cascade effect is accelerating as each failure creates new problems for connected systems. David felt a mix of satisfaction and concern. The aliens were getting exactly what they deserved after decades of betraying human trust. But the scale of the collapse was enormous, and David wondered if humanity had truly understood what they were unleashing when they decided to withdraw from galactic affairs. Admiral Park, incoming transmission from the edge of human space, Lieutenant Kim announced. It's a massive alien fleet requesting permission to enter our territory. David switched to the long-range sensors and saw a collection of ships from multiple alien species gathered just outside the boundary of human-controlled space. The fleet included damaged vessels, overcrowded transports, and what appeared to be refugee ships carrying civilian populations. Admiral, this is Speaker Vex of the Combined Refugee Fleet, a desperate alien voice transmitted. We represent populations from 17 different species whose home systems have become uninhabitable due to infrastructure failures. We request sanctuary within human space and offer our complete surrender to human authority. David stared at the display in amazement. Species that had once considered themselves superior to humanity were now begging for human protection. They were offering to surrender their independence and become subjects of human authority just to escape the chaos they had created for themselves. This is Admiral David Park of the Human Defense Force, David responded. Human space is closed to all alien species indefinitely. You will not be granted entry or sanctuary. I suggest you find solutions to your problems elsewhere. The alien voice became even more desperate. Admiral, please reconsider. Our children are dying. Our worlds are uninhabitable. We have nowhere else to go. We acknowledge that we made mistakes in our treatment of humanity, and we beg for your forgiveness and assistance. David felt a moment of sympathy for the alien civilians who were suffering through no fault of their own. But then he remembered the final solution protocol and the aliens' plan to sacrifice every human settlement to save themselves. They had been willing to commit genocide against humanity to preserve their own species. Now they expected human mercy when the situation was reversed. Your governments made their choices when they decided to treat humanity as expendable, David replied coldly. You will have to live with the consequences of those choices. This transmission is terminated. David cut the communication channel and looked around the command center at his officers. Every face showed the same mixture of satisfaction and determination. Humanity had been pushed around and manipulated for decades, but now the galaxy was learning what it meant to face a crisis without human help. The cosmic phenomenon was still approaching, consuming everything in its path as it moved through the galaxy. The alien species were no closer to finding a solution than they had been when they first discovered the threat. But now they would have to face that challenge without the human ingenuity and sacrifice they had always relied on. Humanity was safe in their own territory, watching as the galaxy that had betrayed them crumbled into chaos. The aliens had made their choice, and now they would live or die with the consequences.